Los Angeles, California, June 1972. A Saturday afternoon, when the summer sun came through the windows of the Long Beach Arena with the particular slant that made everything look slightly more important than it actually was. The International Karate Championships had been running for 5 years and had established itself as the premier showcase for serious martial artists from around the world, drawing competitors from Japan, Korea, Thailand, Europe, and everywhere else that people had decided the disciplined study of fighting was worth dedicating their lives to. The arena held 3,000 people in tiered seating that rose from the competition floor in concentric rings of folding chairs and bleachers, and on this particular Saturday afternoon, every single seat was filled. The air smelled like collective anticipation mixed with the humidity that 3,000 bodies generate in an enclosed space on a warm June afternoon. The competition floor was matted in red and blue squares indicating boundaries, though serious competitors understood boundaries were suggestions rather than rules. Around the perimeter stood judges' tables, 8 men in dark suits with clipboards, and the expression of people asked to quantify something that resists quantification. In the stands, 3,000 people waited with the specific patience of people who have paid money to see something. The tournament had been running since 9 that morning. It was now 2 in the afternoon. Preliminaries were finished. Semi-finals were finished. Finals were approaching. In Section A, front row, reserved seating, sat a small man in a black jacket and black pants who had arrived 30 minutes earlier and had been recognized immediately by everyone within visual range, causing a ripple of whispers that moved through the arena like a quiet wave. Bruce Lee was in the building. He had been invited as a special guest, not a competitor. He had competed at Long Beach before and won, then decided competition wasn't what interested him anymore. That demonstration was more valuable than victory. He had spent the past 3 years developing Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist, a philosophy rejecting traditional styles as rigidity in favor of adaptability. He sat in the front row with his legs crossed and hands folded, his face showing the calm, neutral expression of someone paying complete attention while simultaneously thinking about 17 other things. Next to him sat Dan Inosanto, his senior student, a Filipino-American martial artist who had absorbed more in 2 years with Bruce than in 15 years of training everything else. The tournament director, Ed Parker, a compact Japanese-American who had organized Long Beach championships from the beginning, stood at the edge of the competition floor with a microphone. He raised it. The arena quieted with the speed of people who have been waiting for something and recognized the sound of it arriving. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching the finals of the heavyweight division. Open category. Full contact. The crowd responded with the sound people make when something interesting is finally about to happen after 5 hours of preliminaries. Our finalists are Robert Chen from San Francisco, representing Tiger Crane Kung Fu, and Dolph Lundgren from Stockholm, Sweden, representing Kyokushin Karate. The name Dolph Lundgren meant nothing to most people in the arena. He had arrived 2 days earlier, registered for heavyweight division, fought through preliminary rounds with power and technique that impressed judges and unsettled opponents, and made it to finals without anyone in the American martial arts community knowing who he was or where he came from. What they knew? 15 years old, 6 feet 5 inches tall, 215 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes, the build of someone training seriously since before understanding what training meant, and he had won every match by knockout. Tournament officials had checked his birth certificate twice because a 15-year-old who looked and fought like that seemed like a clerical error. But the certificate was legitimate. The Swedish Karate Federation vouched for him, and Ed Parker, who had seen a lot of fighters and understood that exceptional ones came in unexpected packages, allowed him to compete. Dolph Lundgren walked onto the competition floor from the south entrance, and the crowd reacted with the sound crowds make when they see something that doesn't quite fit their existing categories. He wore a white karate gi that looked slightly too small, which made sense because gis were manufactured for average-sized martial artists, and there was nothing average about Dolph Lundgren's size. The GI top was tied with a black belt signifying his rank in Kyokushin, the hardest Japanese karate style, emphasizing full-contact sparring and the philosophy that the best way to learn to take a punch was to take a lot of punches. He walked to center mat with the confident stride of someone who has never lost and has no framework for imagining what losing feels like. His face showed the expression very young people show when they are very good at something and have not yet encountered the thing that will teach them humility. The first round was not a fight in the way most people in the arena understood fighting. It was a demonstration of what happens when someone very large, very strong, and very well trained decides to end something immediately. Dolph came forward with direct linear aggression of Kyokushin, the style that doesn't believe in defense as separate from offense, that believes the best defense is to hit your opponent harder and faster than they can hit you. His first technique was Mae-jeri, front kick, right leg, aimed at Robert Chen's midsection, delivered with full weight of 215 behind it. Chen blocked, or tried to, got his forearms up to redirect most force. But most force of a 6'5" Kyokushin practitioner is enough to move someone backward 3 steps. Dolph followed with combination. Left punch head, right punch body, left low kick leg. Chen evaded first, blocked second, absorbed third. The low kick impact made a sound front rows heard clearly. The sound of shin meeting thigh with force that would leave a bruise lasting 2 weeks. The round continued 3 minutes like that. Dolph attacking with mechanical efficiency of someone executing a plan. Chen defending with desperate creativity trying to survive until the plan ran out of energy. It didn't run out. When the bell rang ending first round, Dolph walked back breathing normally, as if taking a light walk rather than trying to render another human unconscious. Chen walked back with a limp. The judges made notes. The crowd made the noise crowds make when uncomfortable because too one-sided but too impressive to look away. The second round was shorter. 1 minute in, Dolph threw mawashi-geri, roundhouse kick, left leg, aimed at Chen's head. Chen saw it, tried to duck, wasn't quite fast enough. The kick connected. Chen went down. The referee stopped the fight. Dolph Lundgren had won the heavyweight division of the Long Beach International Karate Championships by technical knockout in the second round. The arena responded with applause that was genuine but reserved, appreciating technical excellence but unsure what they just watched. Dolph walked to center mat. The referee raised his hand. Ed Parker came with the trophy, 3-foot chrome and wood, that looked small in Dolph's hands. Then, instead of bowing and leaving, which was protocol, Dolph turned to face the crowd. He was still holding the trophy. He raised the microphone. The arena quieted, curious. Dolph's voice came through speakers, English with Swedish accent, words clear but shaped differently. "Thank you. This tournament is good. Competition is good. But I come here for more than competition." He paused. 3,000 people waited to find out what this 15-year-old Swedish giant had come for, if not competition. "I come here because I hear about American martial arts. I hear about Kung Fu. I hear about Bruce Lee." He said the name, and the arena shifted, a visible ripple of attention moving through 3,000 people as they collectively understood where this was going. In the front row, Dan Inosanto leaned toward Bruce and whispered something. Bruce's expression didn't change. Dolph kept talking. I train Kyokushin karate in Sweden. 5 years. Hard training. Full contact. Real fighting. We hear about Kung Fu, about Bruce Lee, about how Chinese martial arts are superior. He emphasized the word superior with the particular emphasis of someone about to dispute it. I watch demonstrations. I watch movies. Very fast. Very impressive. But demonstration is not fighting. Movies are not real. The arena was completely silent now, with the specific silence of people present for something about to become a story they will tell for years. Dolph turned toward the front row. He pointed. Not subtly. He pointed directly at Bruce Lee, sitting in reserved section with 3,000 people watching. Bruce Lee, you are here. I am here. I have trophy. But I want to know, is Kung Fu real fighting? Or is Kung Fu just for demonstration? He paused. The pause did specific work. Get in ring, 1 round. Show me if Kung Fu works against real karate. Show me if Bruce Lee can last 1 round against Kyokushin power. 1 round is too much for you. I think 30 seconds is too much. But I give you 3 minutes. Come. Show 3,000 people what Kung Fu really is. The arena erupted. 3,000 people simultaneously gasping, then talking, then looking at Bruce Lee to see what he would do. It was either the most disrespectful challenge in American martial arts history or the most exciting thing that had happened at Long Beach in 5 years. Ed Parker moved toward Dolph with the expression of a tournament director who had just lost control of his tournament. Judges stood from their tables. Officials converged on the competition floor. Everyone was talking at once. And in the middle of it all, in the front row of Section A, Bruce Lee sat completely still, with hands folded and expression unchanged, processing what had just happened and deciding what to do about it. Dan Inosanto leaned close. You don't have to do this. Bruce didn't respond for a moment. Then he said, quietly enough that only Dan could hear. He challenged me in front of 3,000 people. If I don't respond, what does that say? Dan, it says you're smart enough not to fight a 15-year-old in a tournament you're not competing in. Bruce, it says I'm afraid. He stood up. The crowd saw him stand, and the noise level increased. A wave of anticipation moving through 3,000 people who understood that Bruce Lee standing up meant Bruce Lee was about to do something. Bruce walked to the edge of the competition floor. Ed Parker saw him coming, moved to intercept. Bruce, you don't need to do this. He's a kid. He doesn't know what he's saying. Bruce looked at Ed with the expression of someone who has made a decision and is explaining out of courtesy but not asking permission. He knows exactly what he's saying, and 3,000 people heard him say it. I need to respond. Ed Parker understood. He had been in martial arts long enough to understand that some challenges, once issued publicly, cannot be ignored without consequence. He nodded. He turned to the officials. Clear the floor. We're doing an exhibition match. The officials cleared the floor. Bruce Lee stepped onto the mat wearing black pants and black jacket, street clothes, not a GI, making the contrast with Dolph even more stark. Dolph in his white Kyokushin gi holding his trophy, 6 feet 5 inches of proven tournament champion. Bruce in black, 5 feet 7 inches of something the crowd had only seen in demonstrations. The size difference was immediate and concrete and impossible to ignore. Ed Parker announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an unscheduled exhibition match. 3 minutes, 1 round, full contact. Dolph Lundgren, Kyokushin karate champion, versus Bruce Lee Jeet Kune Do. He said, "Fight!" The bell rang. Dolph started with immediate forward pressure, Kyokushin philosophy made physical. Mei Mitumi Geri, front kick, right leg, aimed at Bruce's midsection, same technique that had moved Robert Chen backward 3 steps. Bruce wasn't there. He had moved, not backward, not side to side, but at an angle that Dolph hadn't anticipated. 45 degrees forward and to the left, inside Dolph's kicking range before the kick had fully extended. Dolph's kick found air. Before Dolph could retract the leg, Bruce had moved again, this time to Dolph's right side, a position where your opponent can attack while you can't defend. Bruce didn't attack. He reset, moved back to neutral distance, waited. Dolph processed what just happened and made adjustment. He threw combination, left punch high, right punch middle, left low kick, fast, powerful, the kind of combination that had won him every match at the tournament. Bruce evaded the first punch with minimal movement, slipped the second by rotating his torso, checked the low kick with his shin, all without backing up, all from the same position, small movements that redirected large force. Dolph's combination, which had looked unstoppable against everyone else, looked like it was being performed in a different time signature than Bruce was operating in. 30 seconds had passed. Dolph had thrown 15 techniques. None had landed clean. Bruce had thrown 0 techniques. He was only moving, reading, waiting. The crowd watched with the particular tension that develops when people are watching something they don't fully understand. But sense is important. 1 minute passed. Dolph was breathing harder, not exhausted, but working, expending energy at a rate not sustainable for 3 minutes. Bruce was breathing normally, as if standing still rather than moving constantly. Dolph threw a Mawashi Geri, roundhouse kick, left leg, the same kick that had ended the fight with Robert Chen. High, fast, powerful, aimed at Bruce's head. Bruce ducked under it, not away from it, under it, which meant he was moving toward Dolph while Dolph's leg was extended and his balance was committed. For the first time in the match, Bruce countered, not with a punch, with a touch. His right hand, open palm, touched Dolph's solar plexus. Light, controlled, not enough force to hurt, enough force to demonstrate. Dolph felt it, felt the precision of it, felt how if Bruce had chosen to hit instead of touch, the fight would have been over. 2 minutes passed. The crowd was no longer silent. They were making the sound crowds make when witnessing something they will talk about later. What they were seeing was a 15-year-old tournament champion, 6 feet 5 inches, 215 pounds, trained in one of the hardest fighting styles in the world, unable to land a clean technique on a man 7 inches shorter and 70 pounds lighter who hadn't thrown a single serious strike. Dolph threw everything he had learned in 5 years of Kyokushin. Punches, kicks, combinations, every technique in the arsenal. Bruce moved through all of it like smoke, present but impossible to grab, there but not there, demonstrating with every evasion that the distance between demonstration and fighting was not what Dolph had thought it was. 2 minutes 30 seconds. Dolph was breathing hard now, the kind of breathing that indicates someone has been working at maximum output and is approaching the limit of what maximum output can sustain. Bruce was still breathing normally. The technical difference was becoming a physical difference. Dolph's techniques were slowing down, not dramatically, but measurably, the microseconds that separate fast from fastest. Bruce had been waiting for this. When Dolph threw his next punch, a right cross aimed at Bruce's jaw, Bruce didn't evade. He blocked. Then he moved. For the first time in the match, Bruce attacked with intent. What happened next occupied approximately 2 seconds of real time and would be analyzed by everyone present for the rest of their lives. Bruce hit Dolph 6 times in those 2 seconds. Not full power. Controlled strikes. Light contact. But the precision was absolute. Solar plexus. Floating rib. Temple. Throat. Kidney. Back of knee. 6 different targets. 6 different angles. 6 strikes that demonstrated 6 different ways to end a fight. Dolph felt all of them, felt the control in them, felt how any one of them, delivered with full power instead of demonstration power, would have put him down and kept him down. The last strike to the back of knee buckled Dolph's leg. He didn't fall, but he went down to one knee involuntarily, his leg responding to the strike before his mind could countermand it. The referee was moving forward to stop the fight, but Bruce had already stepped back. The bell rang, ending the round. 3 minutes. Dolph on one knee, breathing hard, looking up at Bruce Lee, who was standing 7 feet away, breathing normally, with the same calm, neutral expression he had worn throughout the entire match. The crowd erupted, not with the polite applause of a tournament, with the sound of 3,000 people who had just witnessed something that transcended sport. Bruce walked to Dolph, extended his hand. Dolph looked at the hand for a moment. Then he took it. Bruce pulled him to his feet. They stood facing each other, the height difference still extreme, but the dynamic different now. Bruce spoke, his voice quiet enough that only Dolph and the referee could hear. "You are very good. Strong, fast, excellent technique. You will be better." Dolph, still catching his breath, managed, "How? How did you? I couldn't touch you." "Bruce, because you were fighting what you expected. I was fighting what was there. Come, we talk." They walked off the mat together. Backstage, Bruce sat with Dolph on a bench. Dan Inosanto brought them water. Bruce spoke. "Why did you challenge me?" Dolph, his English improving as the adrenaline faded. "Because I want to know. Everyone says Bruce Lee is best. But I never see proof. I see movies, I see demonstrations. But demonstrations are controlled. I want to see real." Bruce nodded. "And now?" Dolph thought about it. Then he said something that showed he had learned what Bruce had tried to teach him. "Now I know that real is different than I thought. I thought real was power. You showed me real is understanding." Bruce smiled, the first smile since the whole thing started. "Good. That is the lesson. Keep training, but train with understanding, not just power. You have power. Now develop control." They talked for an hour. Bruce explained Jeet Kune Do, the philosophy of adaptability, the idea that fighting styles were tools rather than identities, that the goal was not to be the best Kyokushin practitioner or the best Kung Fu practitioner, but to be the best fighter, which meant taking what was useful from everything and discarding what was not. Dolph listened with the intensity of someone who has just had their entire framework challenged and is trying to build a new one. Other competitors gradually approached, drawn by the conversation. Soon, there was a circle of 15 martial artists, from different styles, different countries, all listening to Bruce explain the philosophy that he had spent 3 years developing and would spend the rest of his life refining. The tournament ended. Trophies were awarded. Dolph Lundgren was still the heavyweight champion. Bruce Lee was still not competing. But something had shifted in the Long Beach arena that afternoon, something that everyone present felt but was difficult to articulate. It was the shift that happens when someone demonstrates with absolute clarity that the assumptions everyone has been operating under are incomplete. The story of that afternoon spread through the martial arts community with the speed that significant stories spread. Within a week, everyone in American martial arts had heard some version of it. Within a month, the story had reached Europe, Asia, everywhere that people trained seriously. The details varied depending on who was telling it. Some versions had Bruce knocking Dolph out. Some versions had Dolph landing significant strikes. Some versions had Ed Parker stopping the fight. But everyone who had actually been there, all 3,000 witnesses, agreed on the essential truth. Bruce Lee had been publicly challenged by a tournament champion in front of a full arena and had responded by demonstrating with absolute control and precision that the challenge was based on a misunderstanding of what fighting was. The lesson wasn't that Kung Fu was better than karate. The lesson was that understanding was better than style, that adaptability was better than rigidity, that the fighter who could read and respond was more dangerous than the fighter who could only execute. Years later, when Dolph Lundgren became famous, when he was cast in movies and became known to millions of people who had never heard of the Long Beach International Karate Championships, he would occasionally be asked about his martial arts background. Sometimes he would mention that afternoon in June 1972. Sometimes he wouldn't. But everyone who trained with him, everyone who worked with him, everyone who knew him in the decades after that tournament would notice the same thing. Dolph Lundgren fought like someone who had been taught a lesson he never forgot. He fought with the awareness that size was an advantage, but not a guarantee. That power was a tool, but not a solution. That the most dangerous opponent was not the biggest or the strongest, but the one who understood what you were doing before you understood it yourself. He fought, in other words, like someone who had spent 3 minutes in a ring with Bruce Lee and had emerged from those 3 minutes with a different understanding of what fighting was. Bruce Lee died less than a year later, in July 1973, under circumstances that remain disputed and mysterious and tragic. The martial arts world mourned. Among those who mourned was a 15-year-old Swedish karate champion who had learned more in 3 minutes than most people learn in 3 years, and who would carry that lesson for the rest of his life. At Bruce's funeral, among the hundreds of martial artists who came to pay respects, Dolph Lundgren sent a message through Dan Inosanto. "Thank you for teaching me when you could have hurt me. I will never forget." Dan kept the message. He would show it to students years later when they asked about Bruce, about what kind of teacher he was, about what separated him from everyone else. He would show them the message and say, that is what separated him. He could have destroyed that kid's confidence. Instead, he built it. That's what real teaching is. And that, more than any trophy or title or tournament victory, was the legacy of that afternoon in June 1972 at the Long Beach Arena. It was the legacy of a teacher who understood that the greatest victories are not the ones where you prove you are better, but the ones where you help someone else become better. It was the legacy of 3 minutes that changed one young fighter's entire approach to martial arts, and through him influenced everyone he would train with and teach for the next 50 years. That is what real masters do. They don't just win, they transform. And in those 3 minutes, on a June afternoon in 1972, Bruce Lee transformed not just one 15-year-old Swedish karate champion, but everyone who witnessed it, everyone who heard about it, everyone who learned from it. The ripples from that afternoon are still moving through the martial arts world today, carried by people who never met Bruce Lee, but learned from people who were there that Saturday when a tournament champion challenged the wrong man and received the right lesson.